Trump proposes a gold card to bring in wealthy foreigners. And MAGA is divided. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about today. We touched on it briefly in yesterday's show. And again, MAGA is divided on this proposal being pushed aggressively by President Trump and his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. Many of you liked the idea. Many of you did not like the idea. So, in a nutshell, here is now what President Trump is trying to do. He has put forth a very bold, frankly, outside-the-box plan to create, instead of a green card, what he is calling a gold card. And many of you may be asking, Jeff, what the hell is a gold card? A gold card essentially would be a green card plus. Green card with extra privileges. And the way you would acquire a gold card is if you're a wealthy foreigner, you pay $5 million. And with that $5 million, along with a promise, a vow that you will invest in the United States and you will create jobs in the process. So it's not just $5 million and a check of $5 million and they just give you essentially citizenship. It's $5 million to get the gold card, but you also have to promise that you are going to invest substantially in America, create numerous jobs, and of course pay taxes. If you promise to do all of those things and you pay the fee, the $5 million up front, then you will be given permanent residency, a la like a green card, and you will be put on a path towards citizenship. This will also allow you to bring your spouse and your children ages 21 and under. They would be covered under this so-called gold card. Now, listen to President Trump. The reason why he is aggressively pushing this idea, in fact, the idea originated with Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who says this is a way to attract wealthy, successful investors, create jobs in the United States, but the $5 million upfront fee is a way to pay down the national debt. Trump believes that he can get about 1 million people to buy these gold cards. That's $5 trillion. All of the money that comes in for the gold card will be used to pay down the national debt. Listen now to President Trump roll out this idea at a press conference at the Oval Office. Roll cut 22, Mike.
We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship. And wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful.
Now, in particular, and this is one of the key points, is a reporter asks, okay, besides the $5 million, the upfront fee, is there going to be some kind of amount of money that you have to pledge that you will invest in America, whether it be in a startup, in a factory, in a business, whatever it may be? In other words, it's not just the $5 million. Do you have to also pledge that you will invest more money to create jobs? Listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 23, Mike.
Do you have to invest a certain amount of money in this country in order to qualify for that gold card?
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, yes. So it's a way to create jobs. It's a way to bring in a ton of cash foreign investment into the United States. And if every card costs $5 million and there's a very strong demand to get permanent residency and eventually citizenship, Trump believes this could bring in, just in terms of the debt, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. Now, the other part of the plan is very interesting. Trump is also saying, look, if wealthy people like Elon Musk or say Cook at Apple or Jeff Bezos at Amazon, or take your pick, if they want to bring in some of the top engineers or IT or tech people, say from India or China or the European Union or wherever it may be, you pay the $5 million and those employees can come in, get permanent residency, path to path to citizenship, and you can hire them on the spot. And so this is another way to encourage people to bring in the best and the brightest from around the world, but they got to pay a fee, and they got to pay a fee up front. Roll cut 24, Mike.
The gold card will bring in with it people that create jobs, very high-level people. I think companies will pay to get people in. For instance, you today graduate from the Wharton School of Finance or Harvard or Stanford or any college, and nobody knows if you can even go to work for a company. So Apple and all these companies that want to get people to be working for them will be able to buy a card, and for the people that are number one in their class at top schools, I see that as one of the things. But
so now he means these are foreign students, right? These are foreign students who are top of their class. They graduate, but there's no jobs waiting for them. And he says, fine, no, you don't have to go back to your home country. If Apple wants to sponsor you, or Amazon, or I'm just using those as an example, any company, pay the $5 million and you can hire this person on the spot, and they will get immediate permanent residency with a path to citizenship. Now, let me be brutally honest with all of you. I am divided on this issue. I'm honestly, truly conflicted. I had a discussion with Grace about it last night. We went back and forth. Anyway, let me just tell you, I can see the pros and cons. Obviously, beggars can't be choosers. And we are beggars. We have a $36.5 trillion national debt, going up now quickly to $37 trillion. We are the most indebted nation in the history of the world. There is a very powerful op-ed piece out by Scottish historian Neil Ferguson, who says you look at every country in the history of the world in which the interest on the debt cost more than what they paid for defense or any other item in the budget, and every single country has collapsed. And that's now where we are as the United States of America. We now pay more, just the interest on the debt. I'm not talking principal, just the finance, the interest, than we do on national defense or Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, healthcare, education. It doesn't matter. The number one budget expense, the number one budget item is financing the interest on the debt. It is a time bomb that is going to destroy, a ticking time bomb that is going to financially, fiscally, economically destroy the United States. What Trump is trying to do is come up with a bold proposal outside the box to start generating trillions of dollars to start aggressively paying down this debt. So I clearly see the fiscal, budgetary, economic rationale. And yes, our backs are against the wall. We have to move on this and move fast. But let me be also honest with you. On the other side, the idea of selling our country to the highest bidder, of selling our citizenship to the highest bidder, of selling permanent residency and the ability to live and work in the United States to someone who can just, drop $5 million. It's almost like we're selling our country out. It dilutes citizenship, the value, the meaning of what it is to be an American citizen. So what? Foreigners can just buy their way to become an American? They can just buy their way and become citizens for themselves and their families? It sticks in my craw. Honestly, I don't like it. That part I don't like. I really don't like. And so in the end, when I look at the pros and cons, and I can see arguments obviously for both sides, but in the end, I'm against the idea. As an America firster, as a naturalized American, as a very proud American, I don't like the idea of auctioning or selling off citizenship. I understand the argument about the debt. I understand the argument about the need to raise money. I get all of that. But to me, American citizenship has no price. And you don't sell that to the highest bidder. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so President Trump now proposing a gold card in many ways to replace the green card. Not that they will get rid of the green card, but it's kind of an extra tier in which now wealthy, successful business people from around the world, foreigners, if they pay $5 million up front, with a pledge to invest in businesses or a factory or a startup, that they will then be given permanent residency with a path to citizenship. President Trump says the money is going to go exclusively to pay down the debt. They are hoping to raise trillions of dollars from this. Now, just so that everybody knows, because I want to be fair to both sides of the argument, I'm kind of leaning against it. For the reasons that I stated in my monologue. But as Elon Musk said yesterday, and he is right, there's no question he's right. If we don't turn things around when it comes to the debt and the deficit, we are going bankrupt. That there's just no other way to say it. We are going bankrupt. $2 trillion deficits are unsustainable. A almost $37 trillion national debt is unsustainable. That's why they have to do Doge. That's why they have to cut spending. And that's why Trump and his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, this is really Lutnick's brainchild, are saying, let's do something out of the box like the gold card, which they believe can raise potentially $3, $4, maybe even $5 trillion, which they will use right away to pay down debt. So there is a fiscal crisis. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Barack Obama. Thank you, George W. Bush. Thank you, Democrats and Republicans over the last 20, 25 years. So in many ways, as I said in my opening monologue, I understand the idea of it, the need for it, because our backs are against the wall. Now, furthermore, this is not unprecedented. It's unprecedented in the United States, but it's not unprecedented around the world. About 100 countries have some kind of either citizenship in exchange for investment or residency in exchange for investment program. For example, in the Caribbean, this is very popular. Just to give you some examples, the Caribbean nation of Antigua and Barbuda, it's a well-known investment migration hub. There, though, the price tag is much cheaper. It's $230,000. In St. Kitts and Nevis, which pioneered this, 30, 40 years ago, the price there is $250,000 for citizenship. So you pay your $250, you become a citizen, and you also can invest your money, or you have strings are attached. You need to invest money and create jobs. Malta, in the European Union, they charge about $650,000 to $700,000. So it's not like it's unprecedented. That's right. Yeah, and then there's the HB5 visa program, which is what Trump is really trying to replace, modernize, and improve. And so here's the program that we have. It's the EB5 program, which is, if it depends, you invest in some areas, it's $800,000, say, rural areas or more marginal areas, other areas that have higher unemployment, up to $1.8 million. So it's basically 800,000 to 1.8 million. If you are willing to put that money up front and a pledge to invest in those more marginalized or high unemployment areas, you will get an automatic green card. That's the HB5 system that we already have. Not citizenship, but a green card. Now, after 5 years, if you have a green card and you don't commit a crime, you do become a citizen. Now, this is being used by China. China has been, a lot of Chinese investors are coming into America that way. Vietnamese investors, Korean investors. So it is being used by investors around the world. There is a big backlog because there are quotas. They don't just give it to everybody and unlimited. So they only give out about 10,000 a year. So there's a backlog, and people complain that with the backlog, it's very hard for other countries to compete, say against China or against Vietnam, or Taiwan is another one, Taiwan or South Korea. Trump would open the whole thing up. Trump would basically replace the HB5 program with this new gold card program. You don't get a green card, you basically get citizenship. You don't have to give 800,000 or a million or 1.5. It's got to be 5 million. And we want guarantees. The EB5 program, you have to show that you will create 10 jobs. Trump is saying, I want you to create many more jobs. Yeah, and you have to be vetted as well. Trump is adamant on this point that individuals, someone asked him at a presser, well, would that include Russian oligarchs? And he said, well, maybe, if they're properly vetted. So they don't want to see drug cartels, people who launder money, notorious criminals, just come in and buy up citizenship and then set up shop in the United States. Individuals will be vetted. So that's the pro. And it's a very impressive pro. I mean, there's no question. There's a lot of strong arguments. In the end, you're still buying citizenship. You're still, in a sense, you're still putting your country up for sale. And that's the part, as I said, that sticks in my craw. I don't like it. I think it diminishes and devalues our citizenship. And I think we're selling our country out in some ways. And I don't like it that the rich are favored over everybody else. 631 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, super quick. I just want to ask all of you. This was the point that Grace made to me as well last night, and I just briefly touched on it at the end of the last segment. Yeah, my concern is it's selling the country out, and it's selling citizenship to the highest bidder, which I think cheapens and demeans and devalues our country. But think about, what was Trump campaigning on? A one-tier system of justice, a one-tier standard for everybody. Well, here you come out with this plan that if you're mega rich, and you got to be pretty much mega rich to go for this gold card, then you can come to America and buy yourself essentially citizenship for you and your family. I don't know. I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. It just sticks in my craw. I don't like it, but that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Trump has now proposed his gold card, $5 million, and you can purchase essentially citizenship in the United States with a pledge to invest money and create jobs. A, do you believe it's a great way to pay down the national debt, which is really the purpose of this? Or B, do you fear that it is selling the country out? You're basically selling the country to the highest bidder. Citizenship to the highest bidder. A, you like. B, you don't like. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Gina in Burlington. You're going to kick us off, Gina. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Gina.
I've been trying to get in touch with you since November. I've had to work 2 jobs, thanks to lovely Biden. And one of the things I really wanted to say, I wrote down a couple of things because I actually have the morning off, and I hope you give me time to say them. For the debt, I don't know if anyone's touched on this or not, but you know, China, with everyone admitting that COVID was speculated and proof from China, et cetera, however you want to word it, why do we owe all of our debt back to China? If anything, it should be cut in half or less because they inflicted that upon the world. Loss of life, jobs, our economy crashed, et cetera. So I don't think we need to pay back everything we owe to China. So that would help with the debt. If anything, they owe us money for charging us masks and medication for what they inflicted upon us. And in the words of Dave Ramsey, he always said to sell what you don't need. And why does Pelosi, Fauci, Biden, they get pardoned?
Yeah, please, Gina, be careful. That's one word we can't say on the air. Please, say crap, say, feces, say manure, say garbage. But no, look, your overall point, I get it. There are other ways to help pay down the debt. And I think a big one is to tell China to go fly a kite. They're the biggest foreign country that owns our debt. And I'm sorry, they unleashed a biological attack on the United States and on the world. That's what COVID was. That they released it from that lab in Wuhan. I don't care if it was deliberate or intentional. It came from that lab in Wuhan. And they allowed it out. And then they didn't tell us about it. And they allowed people in China to fly, even though they knew they were infected, into the United States, into Europe. Because Xi Jinping didn't want to just have China deal with it. And so that's what released it and turned it into a global pandemic. Now, I'm sorry. To me, those are reparations. So, yeah, I would say we don't owe you that. There's, we're writing off everything that we owe you. Gone. So that would pay down the debt substantially. But look, in the end, and again, this is why I think you can really be on both sides of this issue. And I think in the end, I think Trump's going to get it. I think they're going to create the program. Whatever doubts or opposition there is to this gold card, I think the fact of the matter is when you're looking at a $37 trillion debt, when you're looking at $2 trillion budget deficits, when you're looking at just servicing the interest on the debt alone, again, it's nearly now $1 trillion a year. It's like 945 billion, 945, 935, 950. I read different figures, but let's not quibble. It's basically $1 trillion. Just the interest on the debt. That's why Elon got up yesterday at that cabinet meeting and looked around the room and said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going bankrupt, man. Like, do you understand? If we don't get this thing under control, our country's finished. So, basically Trump is saying, all hands on deck. I'll try any idea. I'll throw anything at the wall at this point. So A, we got to slash government spending, slash the bloated, corrupt federal bureaucracy, bring spending down, start, lower our deficit, start paying off debt. And then Lutnick came up with this idea. Hey, let's start selling a gold card. Other countries sell citizenship. Why don't we sell citizenship? And we have the most valuable citizenship in the world. Everybody wants to be an American citizen, and they're willing to pay top dollar for it. So believe me, I understand the economic rationale. I really do, and I sympathize with the argument. Hey, I don't want to see this country economically crash. But I'm just telling you, as a patriot, as an immigrant myself, as a naturalized citizen, I don't know, man. You just sell it to the highest bidder? Like that's all it takes is $5 million? I don't know. It's like selling your daughter or selling your son. It's just, to me, citizenship is something so precious, so noble, so beautiful. To just sell it, to put a price tag on it. I'm just being honest with you. It leaves a very sour taste in my mouth. Okay, very quick. Listen now to President Trump saying, look, to be honest, he's being very, very upfront about it. He goes, no, this is for people with money. This is for wealthy foreigners with a lot of cash who can invest and who can buy and who are successful. Roll cut 25, Mike.
Generally speaking, it'll be people with money and people that create jobs, and they won't have to pay any tax on income outside of the United States, which they're not paying right now. They're not citizens, but they'll have to pay, if they create jobs in the United States, they'll pay full taxes like everybody else. So you're getting big taxpayers, big job producers, and we'll be able to sell maybe 1 million of these cards, maybe more than that.
And then he says, think about what 1 million is. Right? He says, okay, well, do the math. 5 million per card. Let's say you sell 1 million of these cards. Roll cut 26, Mike.
1 million cards would be worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion.
Wow.
And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion. Well, we have 35 trillion in debt. That'd be nice. So we'll see. But it could be great. Maybe it will be fantastic.
So the person saying, wow, that was Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary. So, what Trump is saying is, look, let's go low. I think we can get 1 million for this. 1 million buyers. That's $5 trillion. Boom. We can put that right to the debt. And he's looking at Lutnick and he says, maybe what, 10 million? Now, it's aspirational. I don't know if we can get to 10 million. He goes, but you put 10 million, that's $50 trillion. That wipes out the entire debt, the whole damn thing. So I understand the allure. I really do. But are we giving up our soul, a piece of ourselves in the process? That to me is the question. Sean in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Sean, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I've been on before, and I think I attended one of your things earlier. I just wanted to point out there's a big history of foreign money in this country. It goes back probably a long time, but I'm thinking about the laundering that the Islamic radicals did from the early 1980s on in Boston and elsewhere. And George Soros and the money he's pumped into this country. And I got to say this. You've got a valid question about this, because there's a question I have about the very successful and the idea of national identity. It's so often, and the globalists may have already made this point, rounded it into the consciousness of the society, the national identity of investment. They've got so much money abroad, is it?
Sean, please, you're building up to a very important point. Hang on. I want to come right back to you, take all of your calls. Do you like this idea? Do you not like this idea? I want to hear from you, Kuhner Country. Don't touch that dial. Forget the green card. Trump is now proposing the gold card. $5 million from a wealthy foreign investor or business person, and citizenship is theirs. Good idea, bad idea. Let's go right back to Sean in New Hampshire. Sean, you were talking about our country's national identity and how increasingly it's being tied to investment and attracting foreign investment. Please pick up where you left off, Sean.
Okay, it always has been, but it's really getting kind of tight for the latter decades of the 20th century. We had Islamic fundamentalists buying up property and laundering money. The politicians going right along with it, giving them great deals on land for mosques and down near Roxbury and places like that. And, we've had George Soros funding rioters and assassins in the United States, for crying these sakes. And the loyalty of many of the people who do business internationally is to their firm and to their interests. And I wonder how often state secrets, military secrets, technical secrets have been just funneled off to China. And China's been allowed to throw a lot of money into the country, too, unopposed, and not really looked at the way it should be. If Trump wants to do what he wants to do, he needs to look very closely at where we've made major mistakes before and try not to make those mistakes again. There's too much at stake. I'm all for hitting the debt, but I'm not for selling out my soul and, no checks and balances on who's doing what and when. Maybe he knows how to do that because he's had a heck of a lot of experience in doing what he's been doing for so long. But there's a bottom line here that you've got to understand checks and balances when you're dealing with human nature. Founding fathers in America knew that. That's why we got the Constitution and gradually progressed socially to reform, not transform.
Oh, Sean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Really, very, very powerfully said. No, look, Sean, that's exactly my concern. Look, the EB-5 program, which is the green card program for wealthy investors, that this will supplant. This will, basically modernize, make it more efficient, and really replace. Already is dominated by China. Now, you can imagine, there's going to be no limit. They're not capping this. There's no quota. We're only going to give 10,000 or 100,000 or a million. Trump is saying, hey, look, if we can sell 5 million, 10 million, however million, the more money, the better, so we can pay down, the debt and maybe all of the debt. But I'm thinking you're going to see Chinese investors pour into the United States. They're licking their chops. Now, they may not be, an immediate national security threat. Yes. Or they may not be fentanyl dealers who are trying to launder their money. I get it. But they're going to have some connections to the Chinese Communist Party. There's no question. Their loyalty is not to the United States. You mentioned, the mosques and the madrasas that are being funded around the world and in some cases here in the United States. The Saudis are going to jump all over this. You're going to, the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, the sheiks. You're going to have Russian oligarchs. There's no question. So what I'm saying is you have to put some really strict safeguards if this thing is going to be successful. And my fear is when you have that kind of money coming in, sloshing around, the one thing people have said about these programs in other countries, that they're rife with corruption and fraud. Whether, St. Kitts or Antigua or Malta, or I mentioned some examples of places where they do this. And they all say, no, it does attract a lot of fraud. It does attract what they call illicit actors. That's the technical term they use. Meaning drug dealers, drug traffickers, warlords, oligarchs, people with dirty money who are trying to clean up their money. So, when it's tried in other places, there's a lot of fraud and a lot of abuse. Now, we're not charging 230,000, 250, 650,000, or even $1 million. We're charging 5 million. To just cough up 5 mil, like it's nothing. And then you've also got to give a commitment for investments, for jobs. You're talking about the super rich. And I'm worried about people getting paid off. I'm worried about the bar being lowered. I'm worried about people not doing proper background checks because they're being paid to look the other way. That's why I look at this and I'm like, and just overall, I don't know. To me, it's, so if you got the cash, you can become an American citizen. Like, that's how it works now. You know, we're not just selling the country out. We're not just selling like assets or land. Now we're selling, to me, our most precious thing, which is our birthright, our citizenship. That's what I don't like it, Sean. I'll be honest, I don't like it. I mean, I'm not saying he implements it and I'm going to wage a jihad against it. I can definitely see the rationale for it because we're in such a deep financial hole. But I don't like it. I got to tell you, it's that bone now that's sticking in my craw. Sean, thank you very much for that call. In other words, this is very tough for the Kuhner man to swallow. So, and Grace and I were going back and forth on this last night. Pros and con. And, in the end, you attract citizens because you think in the end they love America. They're willing to assimilate in America. They're willing to contribute and give to America. This is almost like selling to the highest bidder. Like we're just sort of auctioning off citizenship. Dave in Pennsylvania. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. How you doing, buddy?
Dave, our Western PA correspondent. How are you?
Good. Hey, Jeff, about that, I was wondering, could I add something to the title since you gave me the title?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
How about you, Western Pennsylvania constitutional correspondent? Because I don't want to be, not saying you confuse me, but some wingnut in the media will think I'm one of them.
Okay, yeah. Sure. I mean, I thought Kuhner Country's Western PA correspondent. I mean, that to me implies constitutionalist, Dave. But if you want to add the extra word, go ahead, my friend. You've earned it.
I'm going to put it up on my Facebook profile. That way I'll get a lot of hits for you. But anyway, Jeff, listen, just real quick before I get to what I called about. Isn't it good? We might not agree on everything, Jeff, but we can sit down and we can have a good argument. I don't mean like an argument, like a fight. To the dumbass liberals out there, like Bill and Sudbury, an argument means a discussion. Right, Jeff? And in legal terms, too. But we don't expect Bill or people like that to understand, Jeff. But anyways, I respectfully agree and disagree with you, Jeff. I think it's going to be good to pay down the debt. But on the bad side, I don't know if you agree with this, is that, yeah, they're going to be vetted. But, Jeff, anyone can turn on a dime, buddy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you mean, in other words, yeah, they may be initially vetted, and it's fine. But then when they come here, they could be influenced in a negative way. Say, let's just take an example. You mean like a Chinese investor, right? So they're vetted, and no, really, they just want to put in money and invest and make money and do well and achieve, the American dream. But then 5 years later, whatever, they could be influenced by the Chinese Communist Party or by family members. So they come in with good intentions, but they could be corrupted over several years, correct? Is that your concern, Dave?
Something like that, Jeff, and I don't know if this is a good analogy. Please let me know. Remember in the 1980s when the Mujahideen was on our side in Afghanistan because we had a common enemy, the Soviet Union. But right after the Gulf War, Bin Laden supposedly, who did turn on us, who was a CIA operative. If you remember that, Bin Laden and Saddam were once on the CIA payroll. Again, my friends, my enemy, my frenemies. But, Jeff, the Mujahideen turned right on us and joined the Taliban. So guess what, Jeff? One day you get your buddy, next day you get your enemy. You know what I'm saying, Jeff? I'm just speaking.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Dave, let me ask you this. How serious, how much of a crisis do you think our deficit and debt is? I think in many ways, I think that's going to determine which side people fall on in this debate. Elon and Trump are now convinced it's an existential threat. Do you think it's an existential threat?
Yeah, Jeff. I think it could be also a national security threat if we don't get it taken down. Because remember, before Trump came in, China was buying up a lot of our debt. From what I understand. But Jeff, I think it's a good idea. I think I'm 60-40, Jeff. I'm leaning more towards the 60. But like I said, Jeff, I make weird analogies, but I'm glad you agree with that because, like I said, Jeff, one day your neighbor could be your best friend and have a cookout with you. The next day he's busting down your fence. But no, Jeff, I think it's also a national security crisis because, like a person who's indebted to a debtor, they're going to come collect sometime.
Well, that's
you know
nailed it.
Jeff?
Dave, you're on fire, by the way. Our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent, Dave, is on fire because China has us by the tonsils. They do. If they want to call in the debt, they could bring America to its knees. And that's what Trump is telling everybody over and over. That's what Elon is telling everybody over and over. He says, you don't understand. We've got to make these cuts. Talking about Doge. And then what Lutnick came to him and said, look, you know what? Let's not grind it out. A million here, a trillion here, a trillion there. I think we can get trillions and trillions and trillions. Like, well, how? Let's do a gold card. And Trump was like, whoa, really? Yeah. $5 million. Other countries do it, but they don't charge what we charge. $5 million. And they got to invest, and they got to create jobs, and they got to pay taxes. And of course, we'll vet them. We're not going to just let anybody come in. And that's why Trump now sees a pot of gold. And, even if he can get 10 trillion taken off the debt, how much that would lower our interest payments. Like already that would let us breathe a little bit more. But, look, Dave, I'm preaching to the choir now when I'm saying this, but I have to say this. How did we allow ourselves to get to this point? That to me is what is so freaking criminal. That, basically now, as I said in my opening monologue, beggars can't be choosers. Like, it's gotten to the point, like, just do it. Do whatever you got to do. So it's almost like a home that has been so mismanaged, a household, and you've put yourself in such debt that to pay off the interest on the debt, you've got to sell one of your daughters or one of your sons or one of your family members, which, by the way, happens a lot in the world. It just does. So it's like, look, we got to eat. All right, which of my daughters do you want? I mean, it's starting to become like that. And that's the part I don't like. I don't like you put this much money and you get citizenship. That's it. So that's what American citizenship now means. It's like at a Las Vegas casino. It's now, it's for sale. That's what I don't like. But again, you may agree to disagree. I mean, that's why we have America. That's why we have freedom. Dave, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. As I always say, this is America. You're always free to disagree. That's the beauty of this country. Barbara in Abington. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Barbara.
I just want to say condolences to you and your family for the loss of your father.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I want to say I think Trump's idea is brilliant. There are millions and millions of illegals in this country who are living on the taxpayers' dime, so to speak. So I think charging someone who is as wealthy as they are, I don't really think you'll get the riffraff that we're getting now. You won't get the rapists, the pedophiles, the drug dealers, the gangbangers. People think that all they have to do is come across, have a baby, and they instantly get citizenship. So what is wrong with charging somebody for a pathway to citizenship other than having people think, well, I'll get into the United States, I'll have a baby, and now I'm a citizen?
Well, Barbara, that's a very good argument. I gotta say, it's a very, very persuasive argument. Look, you look at the open borders that we've had, you're right. It's third world illegals who are pouring in, and either they're criminals or they're gangbangers, or many of them are, rapists, or let's just say many of them, Jeff, well, no, and many of them are not that. but they're low skilled. It's not their fault, but they just come from very poor countries, low education, very low income, low skill. Most don't speak the language. So, as Trump said, we're not getting the world's best. They're not sending us their best. Even if you leave aside the criminals and the gangs and the sex traffickers and all the crime, if you just say, look, just these, they want to come to work. Okay. These, hardworking migrants, but many of them have little to no skills. Most of them have a 6th to 8th grade education. Almost no money, no income, which is why many of them go on welfare on top of working. Trump is saying, why don't we flip it? How about we bring in, and this is what he said, the best and the brightest. It's not just their money that we're bringing in. It's their know-how. It's their education. It's their investment. It's their ability to create jobs and businesses. They become taxpayers. In other words, not takers like all of these illegals, but they become makers immediately. I mean, they start off with $5 million right into the pot. Right away, they put in a $5 million, a $5 million fee. Never mind everything else that they have to do. They got to pay taxes. They got to create a company or a factory or whatever. They got to hire people. So what he's saying is, this is to bring in the world's best, not the world's worst. And so that's how he sees it. In fact, let me just play a quick cut, Barbara, and I promise I'll let you finish. This is what Trump said, saying, look, and by the way, if they want to hire someone who's a foreigner but has gone to one of our schools, our elite universities, he says, fine. You really value some of these people, you buy them a gold card, $5 million, and they can work. So not only are they creating jobs, not only are they putting $5 million towards paying down the debt, they're also going to be hiring people, and they got to pay $5 million for them too. Roll cut 24, Mike.
The gold card will bring in with it people that create jobs, very high-level people. I think companies will pay to get people in. For instance, you today graduate from the Wharton School of Finance or Harvard or Stanford or any college, and nobody knows if you can even go to work for a company. So Apple and all these companies that want to get people to be working for them will be able to buy a card, and for the people that are number one in their class at top schools, I see that as one of the things. But
so, Barbara, there you go. He's saying it'll attract capital, investors, businesses, know-how, people with good skills and education. In other words, the very exact opposite of all the illegals that have been pouring in. Final word to you, Barbara.
Exactly. This is why I think it's brilliant. And they're going to vet these people. No one has been vetted for the last 4 years. Everybody has been coming in and living off of the taxpayers. At least now, you own a company, and your company is stymied, and you have to think of a way how to get it making money again. So maybe the U.S. is like a company, and the way to make money again is to let these ultra-rich people pay for a pathway to citizenship that we're not going to have to support, that are going to make jobs and make us rich again in that sense. I don't know. What do you think?
Well,
Jeff?
Barbara, look, that's the argument. I mean, that's what Lutnick, Musk, and Trump are arguing. You've laid it out, I think, very, very well. And Barbara, thank you very much for that call. No, look, I think this is if there's a disagreement, this is the disagreement. And I think you laid it out very clearly, Barbara. Run America like a business, right? As you said, America in many ways is a company. So run it like a company. Bring in the best people. Bring in the best talent. Bring in the best money, the best capital, the best investment. This is where I kind of slightly disagree. To me, America is more than a company. To me, America is a nation. It's a family. And the idea that someone can just buy their way into the United States, that's the part I don't like. Now, again, I recognize the fiscal economic realities. I understand we're $37 trillion in the hole. I don't see a better idea out there. Nothing like anything that comes close to this that can potentially generate trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. So we may have no choice. But I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know if this is a precedent we want to set. Just stand back. Basically, here's what we're saying. If you have money and you're willing to plunk it in the United States, you become an American citizen. That basically American citizenship is for sale. It's a commodity. It's a commodity. It's like a corporation or a company. It's a product that we sell. I don't think that's what George Washington had in mind. It's certainly, I'll be honest, it's not what I had in mind when I came to America. I came to work. I came to pay taxes. I came to contribute. But I'm here, honestly, because I love America. I mean, I love the freedom of America. I love the Constitution of America. I love the history of America. I love the heritage and culture of America. It's not a business proposition. And, okay, fine, I get it. We're going to generate trillions of dollars. But remember, these are people coming from around the world, many of whom don't have our best interests at heart. I mean, they may be vetted. I'm not saying they're criminals. But do they love America? Do they ultimately have our best interests at heart? Or are they essentially just mercenaries? Economic mercenaries? Do we need that? Do we want that? That's 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Chuck on Messenger. Chuck gets right to the point, as he always does. Jeff, Doge and the gold cards will bail out a lot of the debt and then some. We are facing bankruptcy. Get that money. Yeah, in other words, as I said, look, man, our backs are against the wall. It's now or never. So that's how many of you feel. 617-266-6868. Okay, Trump proposes gold cards, $5 million. And essentially you buy yourself citizenship. Of course, you've got to create jobs, invest, create a factory or a business. But essentially now it is a way for foreigners around the world, very wealthy, very successful investors, if they want to get citizenship, they pony up $5 million and they're basically in. They have to be vetted, obviously. They're not going to give it out to criminals or war criminals or warlords or money launderers or those in organized crime. But outside of that, if you're an investor from whatever country in the world and you want to do business in America and you're willing to pay $5 million up front, Trump says we'll have this program up and running in 2 weeks and we're going to start paying down the national debt. Good idea, bad idea. K-Train in Malden. Thanks for holding, K-Train, and welcome.
Good morning. How's my brother from another mother?
I'm doing very good. How are you, K-Train?
Good. It's been about 8 years I've been listening. I don't call often because I've always agreed. You've always had my angle till this morning. As an ex-elected official for years, having my kids go to school, I was upset with the way, even when we vetted people, we did not take people who treated women like equals. And sending kids to school who have parents who do not treat each other like equals is not right, no matter how much money you have. You need to get to the president, add this caveat, and he will attract even more. You have to come from a country that treats everyone like an equal. Your women, your special needs, everyone. If you don't, we will de-evolve, and you will be a problem. If we get people from like-minded countries, there's plenty of them. We'll attract more than the original incentive. What do you think?
I like it. I think it's a great amendment, which is basically what you're proposing, a revision or an amendment to the proposal. They're not going to go for it. And the reason why, K-Train, not because it's not a brilliant idea, it is. The big money is in China. The big money is in the Middle East. The big money, to a lesser extent, is with the Russian oligarchs. And that's where they think they can rack up trillions of dollars. So China clearly doesn't share our values. They don't. Most of the Middle East, I don't even need to say more. And, you know, the Russians, you got Russian oligarchs. I mean, there's a lot of shady businesses that go on there, allegiances that go on there. So that's the problem. The problem is they're going to get some Canadians. You're going to get some Europeans. You're going to get some Japanese, some Taiwanese, some South Koreans, some Australians. But that's not where the big money is. You look, they can sell 1 million of these just to Chinese investors alone. Howard Lutnick is saying, look, man, we've got literally 500,000 Chinese investors already asking for it now. And the thing isn't even out yet. So they're saying, look, we can sell 1 million of these just to the Chinese. That's $5 trillion. Let's say we open it up to India, we open it up to Russia, we open it up to Saudi Arabia, to Pakistan, to the Gulf states, Egypt. By the way, now the Egyptians are saying they got a lot of people who are willing to plunk $5 million. So when you're looking, if this is your way to fundamentally pay down the debt, you got to go to the highest bidder. And the problem is, K-Train, most of the people who are the highest bidders don't share our values. Now, it doesn't mean they're criminals, doesn't mean they're monsters, but see, this is why I go back to this. You really want people in this country with a lot of wealth and a lot of power that we may not fully be able to trust, who in the long run may do us harm? That, yeah, they'll pass an initial vetting, but they really have no stake in America. I mean, financially, yes, but as you put it, morally, spiritually, philosophically, intellectually, culturally, they don't. And that's why, I mean, look, we may have to do it because we have no other choice, but I don't know. Look, this is the analogy I like, and I'll give you the final word, K-Train. Your family is going bankrupt. Now you have to start marrying your children off to wealthy people in order to keep your household afloat. They're not marrying for love anymore. They're marrying to the best connected wealthy family. That's what's starting to happen. Final word to you, K-Train.
See, I disagreed with that analogy, and I only a little bit, because when I
K-Train, I'll tell you what, we're up against a hard break. I want you to give me exactly what you think, because you think my analogy is off. Please, if you think it is, let me know. I want to hear from you, so we'll go back to K-Train, take all of your calls. Don't touch that dial. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are jammed. I mean jammed. Emails are pouring in. The text line is on fire. Everybody is weighing in on this. This is a great discussion. So, President Trump now, as you know, proposing a gold card, not a green card, but a gold card, which is a new program for wealthy, in fact, you would say maybe uber wealthy foreigners to get citizenship in the United States. It's a huge incentive, but they got to pay $5 million up front, plus they have to create a certain amount of jobs. They'll iron out all the details, but they're going to have to create jobs, invest in America, build factories or create plants or set up some kind of a business, and of course pay a lot of taxes. And Trump believes it's going to help the economy boom, obviously, and create a lot of employment. But fundamentally, he says the money that will accrue, trillions and trillions of dollars, hopefully, will go directly to pay down the debt. Good idea, bad idea. K-Train, I want you to finish your thought. You don't like my analogy of this is like a family household that was once a beautiful mansion, a great home. Now, because of irresponsible spending, heavy debt and deficits, now they're on the verge of bankruptcy. So this family home, this family household has to start marrying their sons and daughters off to other wealthy families just to keep the household afloat. You're saying you don't like that analogy. Please, K-Train, tell me why. Go ahead.
I love it up until the ending. It's a little apocalyptic. I would look at the family, because it's such a big and beautiful house, and say, now we have to rent out the game room in the basement.
So you don't see the marrying off of the daughters and the sons, right?
No.
It's the game room.
We gotta lose the game room, the pool table. We gotta tighten the belt a little. That was the only thing. I thought you were going to finish like that.
So K-Train, ultimately, if you were in the cabinet or if you were advising Trump and he said, hey, K-Train, gold card, thumbs up or thumbs down, you would give it a thumbs up.
If they don't know what the word chivalry is, I'd say next. No. They have to, I believe, like I said, I think a lot of the vetting would be an attraction is if they had the same, if they treated everyone like an equal. How do we let people pay their way in and treat their women not as equals, or the special needs not as equals? And then we'd only be losing the basement and not one of our children.
In other words, they have to share our values. I understand that. And basically our culture. I hear you. K-Train, thank you very, very much for that call. Okay, to be fair, because a lot of you are saying, well, hey, Jeff, there's a lot of us out there that oppose the gold card. We're with you on this. Could you start reading some of our emails and texts? So this is from 603. Jeff, I have to agree with your sentiment. I know exactly where you're coming from. It's almost like taking the, quote, open for business, unquote, sign and replacing it with a, quote, unquote, for sale sign. That's a very good way of summing it up, 603. That's kind of how I feel. It's almost like putting a big sign up and saying, for sale. 5 million. And you get citizenship. Yeah, I honestly, to me, to be an American citizen, 5 million is cheap. I don't know how you put a price tag on something so precious and so beautiful and so noble, but that's me. Okay, this is from Lauren on Messenger, and she makes a very, very good point. Jeff, foreign invasions, whether they're rich or poor, are still foreign invasions. The American people are tired of foreigners taking over, legal or illegal, rich or poor. Pretty soon, if this gold card goes through, we're going to be owned by China and or the Middle East or both. This is a bad, bad idea. I don't like it. And I go for almost 100% of what Trump does. But this one, no. I smell a rat. Not a good idea. Well, see, that's the other thing. There's going to be, I'm just stating a fact. I don't think Lutnick would disagree with this. There's going to be a ton of Chinese investors and Middle Eastern investors. Now you're saying, well, okay, Jeff, they paid their $5 million. Yeah, but they're all going to be American citizens. They're all going to be in the United States, and they're going to be investing and owning. Is that what we really want? Do we really want more Saudi influence in America? Do we really want more Chinese influence? And I mean Chinese influence, I don't care if you're ethnically Chinese. I mean Chinese influence potentially tied to the CCP. That's what, to me, is the concern. Do we really want that? because they're the ones with the money. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't others with money, but those are the ones with the really deep pockets. And that's where you're going to get a lot of these gold cards sold to. 617-266-6868. In other words, maybe we will pay down the debt, but are we selling our soul in the process? That's what keeps sticking in my craw. Luke in Harvard. Thanks for holding, Luke, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff. How you doing today?
Luke, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you, my friend?
Good, good. Hopefully I get signal for a second because I'm going through a spot where there typically isn't any. So anyway, that's what you just said, just up the ante. They're already here anyways. Like, they're taking our country over just from the universities. So just, instead of having $5 million, make it 10.
Oh,
are you there?
So, yeah, no, I hear you, Luke. You are starting to break up. But so, Luke, you're saying they're already here. So what the hell? They're buying up our universities. They're buying up the media. They're buying up our farmland. They're buying up so much of our country. At this point, don't charge them 5, charge them 10 million. And if they charge them 10 million, are you for it then, Luke?
If it's a golden ticket, make it a golden ticket. Make it up there. Donald Trump's the king of sales. And then here's the other thing. I'm going to be a devil's advocate here for a minute. It's a problem, though, when it's in competition with the other cards. And it's in competition with regime change in America. So, for instance, now we have Trump for 4 years. The return on the investment would be, just wait it out and wait for the next Democrat to get in and it's free. Or if you want, you get a green card. If you just hang on, you can get a green card. It's free. You don't have to pay, 5, 10, 20 million. You could just get in. Or you typically they would overextend their visas.
No, you're right. Luke, you're right. I mean, we're assuming that J.D. Vance is going to win in 2028 and continue the Trump, MAGA revolution. But if this is only 4 years, and that's what a lot of people, frankly, on the text line are saying, they're like, Jeff, look, we don't have options right now. We don't. You want to get rid of this debt. You want to close this deficit. You've got a couple years to do it. Don't assume that we're going to win in 2028. If this can generate enough revenue to either do it or get us close to doing it, take it and worry about the consequences later. Basically, it's now or never. Luke, all kidding aside, are you for this or against this? Or are you really serious about, Jeff, make it 10 million and I'm in?
I'm fine with the 5, but I mean, you have to make it, here's the other thing. Can you sell a ticket? Can I sell my ticket? Say you have a leftist that's like, I don't want to be an American anymore. And he's like, I'm going to sell my citizenship to someone for $5 million. I mean, I would sell Adam Schiff's if you want. Let's sell Adam Schiff's citizenship. And we sell his for $20 million because we got to make as much as we can.
Oh, Luke, I missed you, man. Luke, come on. Don't be a stranger. You got to call more often, buddy. Luke, thank you very much for that call. Well, no, to be honest, now, not change. If we could sell the citizenship of these crazy moonbats, and all these Hollywood lefties, and I'm leaving if Donald Trump, if he wins, I'm gone. Then I'm for it. Then, well, I'd say, you know what? I think we may have a deal. You just found my price. That's my price. You mean we can get rid of all these lefties, all these Hollywood anti-Trumpers, and it only costs $5 million? I'm in. So, all right. Luke says it's now or never. Maybe up it to 10 million, but basically Trump's going to be in power only for 4 years. We don't know what's going to happen afterwards. This could be the only shot we have to do anything about the debt and the deficit. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. And the 5 million, is it enough? Or do you think it should be 10 million, 15, 20 million? Your calls next. 50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, to show you how evenly divided the audience is. So as you know, our poll question of the day, do you support Trump's, gold card? He says, do you like it? A, because it's going to pay down the national debt. B, no, because essentially it's selling the country out. So far, 55% A, they like it. 45% no, they don't like it. Interesting. As always, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day is brought to you by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Obviously, you can continue to vote all the way up until 10 o'clock. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, K-U-H, N as in national ER. If you prefer, you can vote via X, always very active on X. My handle there, one word, at the Kuhner Report. K-U-H, N as in national ER. Bruce in Woburn. You've been holding patiently, Bruce. Thank you. And as always, welcome. Bruce, what do you make of this? You like the idea of a gold card, or you don't like the idea of a gold card?
Well, before I get to any cards, Jeff, I just want to say I was in Chelsea on Monday, and I have Trump stickers all over my car. My dog hates Biden more than you, and I got a lot of dirty looks, except for the police officers that walked by my car. I had a black officer. She was pretty nice looking too, by the way. And in a non.
Well, I mean, Bruce, it's a studmobile. I mean, you got all those stickers on it. It drives the women crazy.
Kid kahunas to have Trump stickers, and everybody's wearing Trump hats, and I love it. But that being said, I say nobody comes in here. I don't care how much freaking money you have till we get rid of the ones that aren't supposed to be here in the first place. And they should be paying rent. We should be getting paid back from these little sons of guns. But anyways, Jeff, I say no with the gold card all day, all night, all morning.
That's interesting, Bruce. So you're saying until we've deported all of the illegals and finally totally secured our border and stopped this invasion and repelled this invasion, we shouldn't be talking about trying to bring more people into our country, whether they're rich, middle class, poor, whatever. Correct?
Correct. And I appreciate what the deals that they're trying to make, but it's no deal. It is no deal, Jeff. No deal. No way, Jose.
Bruce, interesting take, as always. Bruce, thank you very much for that call. Look, let me throw this little quick log, very quick log on the fire, okay? Small log. What if Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum, says, yeah, sure, I'll take U.S. citizenship. 5 million, no problem. That's tipping money. I'll set up think tanks and organizations and, I'll employ 100 people, 200 people, 500 people, no problem. Now, they'll do a criminal background check. He's a criminal in the sense that he's destroying the world. But, I'm sure he has no arrest record. I'm sure, he has no drug record. So my point is he would pass the vetting, obviously. So what I'm saying is Are these the kinds of people, George Soros? I'm just saying you have to think about, all the possible angles to this. No, I mean, they can wreak havoc. You're right, Sandy. They can wreak havoc, from Europe. They don't have to have citizenship. But I'm just saying, look at Soros now, who's bought these 200 radio stations, right? So do we want to, because there will be globalists who will say, I'll pay the $5 million. I'll operate in the United States. No problem. So what I'm saying is, there's no question there's a downside to this. And the only question is, are you willing to put up with it? Is the upside, the benefit, cost-benefit analysis, is the benefit of the trillions of dollars worth the potential cost? That's the question. Bill in Medfield. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hey, how you doing? It's the world's biggest Leonard Skinner fan. Remember me?
Yes, Bill, I remember you. I love Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, so I'm going to combine what's happening to me on what's the topic today. Well, I worked all my life, 40 years, 30 years about, and I lived in America all my life, and I don't get citizenship. I'm an illegal alien, even though both parents were born in America, and I paid millions of dollars. I had my own business. They gave me a Social Security card, and I'm not getting Social Security. It's took 2 years plus. I got to get a lawyer to pay $20,000 or something to get it. That's why I'm also talking to Donald Trump right now. If you're listening, William K. Vieira, 67 years old, lived here 67 years, isn't getting Social Security, and I don't have health insurance because I don't have the money from Social Security. So combining it with this topic, I don't think these people should be able to pay $5 million. And number one, they're going to be socialists. There's no doubt. And they're going to wait a while. They'll do business good until they get entrenched, and then will come the socialism because they're the millionaires that.
Well, Bill, look, that's another, and Bill, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Look, that's another point that many on the text line are making. They're saying, Jeff, we're just looking at them now as investors. But think about it. Now they have citizenship, right? They pony up their $5 million. So now they come into America, they're citizens. And, they have a business and they invest, well, whatever it may be. They have employees. They're eventually going to become politicians. In other words, it's not like they just come and stay in the economic sphere and pay taxes and make money and hire people. They're going to start to exert, because they're wealthy, they're powerful. The wealthy and the powerful always like to exert influence. They're going to want to start exerting more and more influence. Well, think about it. Do you really want a globalist elite? And I mean globalist in the sense they're coming from all over the world. So do you want people coming from all over the world, coming from China, coming from Taiwan, coming from South Korea, coming from, Russia, coming from Saudi Arabia, coming from Turkey, coming from Egypt, coming from Kuwait? So they're all pouring into our country, bringing their families with them. And citizenship as they come on in. Well, give them 10 years and you're going to have yourself a very powerful economic, political elite that essentially bought their way into the United States. I'm just saying, do we want that? Is their allegiance truly going to be to America? Because it's a commodity. They just bought it. That's what they basically bought themselves a passport. That's what it is. See, here it. How much is an American passport? $5 million. Here's the $5 million. Okay, we cash the check and we use it to pay down the debt. Great. I love it. But then they're here. And so my concern is we're not thinking about and what happens after. We're just looking at the money and paying down the debt, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But then we got to live with them. They're here. 617-266-6868 is the number. David in Ashland. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, David.
I would have to say that, I know you had done an analogy earlier on, but I would have to say this is a ship. And basically, we're sinking at this point due to the financial debt. And I think the gold card, I'm against it. And part of the reason being is what you had just said is the fact, these people come in here, and then what's going to happen is, first of all, they're going to be where are they going to be investing their money? They'll invest a little in the United States, but they want to make money. They're going to be investing in other foreign countries. We already have Bill Gates, Bezos, George Soros. Where are they investing their money? Overseas. That's what they're doing. I think what we need to do is stop the leaks. That means we stop and deport the migrants. We go after China for reparations for the COVID in a world court and have them give us back some money. We go after the crooked politicians, go after and take their money away from them. And I say, no, we need to stop the leaks. We don't need to bring people in here that are going to end up being George Bezos and Bill Gates and control everything that we're doing. All you're doing is driving the middle class further into the hole. And that's what I don't like.
David, just to jump off of what you're saying, it's going to replace what's called the EB-5 program, which is, it's got caps, it's got quotas, but essentially, I'm eliminating all the nuances and qualifications. Basically, it's $1 million. Okay. It's 800,000 in some cases, 1.8 in others, but basically it's $1 million. You create 10 jobs in America. Boom, you get a green card. Okay. In that program, already the communist Chinese are dominating it. 55%. 55%. Now, they're going to dominate the 5 million. Now, these are individuals, companies, investors with direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Direct ties. Direct ties to the World Economic Forum. Direct ties to the globalists. We're going to unleash the floodgates and say, come on in, and our price is 5 million? We're asking for trouble. They're going to buy more farmland. I can tell you this right now. They're going to buy up more of our tech startups. They're going to try to penetrate our national security, our tech companies. That's what they're here for. Yes, to make money. But they're also going to be conducting, I think, low-level surveillance and spying. It won't be brazen. They have to be careful. But again, their loyalty is not to the United States. And the problem is now they have citizenship. So, you don't know who's loyal and who's not because they have an American passport and they have American citizenship. So that's what I'm saying. This could be a Trojan horse for people who can't stand this country. And they're going to use our vulnerability now, and we're vulnerable because of the debt. There's no question. And they're going to exploit it. Am I wrong, David?
No, you're not wrong at all, Jeff. You're right on target. I believe that this is just the Trojan horse that is, 5-10 years down the road, we're going to be another country entirely because it's going to be run by, it's basically letting the fox in the hen house. It's not a good deal.
David, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Peter in Florida. Thanks for holding, Peter, and welcome.
Hello. That was an incredibly short hold. My idea is that you can't accept monopoly money for citizenship. It has to be a real asset. Your children are already slaves because if they grow up and pay taxes all their lives, that money has already been spent if they live to the age of 80. So the dollar has got to go. We've got to use gold for money. And accepting gold for a passport, think about it.
Well, Peter, look, I don't want to you're making a very, very interesting argument. Please don't get me wrong. And frankly, a profound economic argument. I don't want to get sidetracked with gold versus, the dollar. And I agree with you. I think the dollar is now basically going to become meaningless because you're right, where our children are becoming economically enslaved. But I don't want to lose track of the larger thread of the show. But I do want to ask you something because it is tied to what you're saying. Murray Rothbard, one of the most brilliant libertarian economists that ever walked the face of the earth, wrote a very famous essay 30 years ago. In fact, I think actually over 30 years ago now. And it always stuck with me. And that's when the national debt was so much smaller and the national deficit was so much smaller. And what Rothbard said was, he says, I'm telling you, we can't pay this off. He goes, I'm telling you, the interest is going to crowd out everything else in the budget. It's going to be like a cancer. We're enslaving our children and our grandchildren, thanks to the Federal Reserve, because they're just printing money and printing money, borrow and print, borrow and print. So he says what's happening is we are going to become a nation of debtors. And he says there's eventually going to be no way for us to pay it off. Or we become like Argentina, where massive inflation, you wipe out and destroy the middle class, and you're just basically run by a small elite, the super rich. He said the only way out eventually is to repudiate the national debt. Just repudiate it. Say, no, we're not paying. That's it. Now, you can only do it once because no one's going to ever lend you money again, right? So you can't do it 2 or 3 times. But what Rothbard said is, he said, trust me when I tell you this. We're going to come to the conclusion. We're going to have no other option. It's either Argentina or we just repudiate the national debt. I'm sorry. We're not paying anybody. Sayonara. We're not paying. Basically, it's like a form of declaring bankruptcy. So then we have to balance our budget from that point forward because no one will ever lend us money again. What do you think of the idea, Peter, of just repudiating the national debt? That's it. Forget China. It's not that we don't pay to China. We don't pay to any of our creditors. That's it. We're done. The politicians racked up the debt. We never asked for these crushing deficits. We never asked them to spend beyond our means. They imposed this on the country. We're not going to live with it. We're repudiating the debt. And from this point forward, we have to pass a balanced budget every single year. Period. Full stop. Peter, like, no like?
I don't see any alternative because one thing that I've noticed missing from the words of Donald Trump is Tanstaffel. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. So if we don't repudiate the debt, there's no way we can pay it off.
See, that's my fear. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's my fear. I think we're the most indebted country in the history of the world. Again, we didn't ask for this. Our criminal politicians imposed this upon us. Okay, that's why to me they should be all repudiated. Completely repudiated, discredited. But it is what it is. I don't see how you pay back $37 trillion. Now, I know he's trying. I get it. Thinking outside that. This is a very creative idea. I get it. A gold card, 5 million. Maybe if we get 1 million, we get 5 trillion. Oh my God, if we get 10 million, we get 50 trillion. I understand that. But realistically, unless you sell your country out, I don't see how you can pay off $37 trillion, which then leaves us one choice, repudiate. Just repudiate the whole damn thing. And from that point on, you can never run even a cent in deficit. Balanced budget, balanced budget, balanced budget, because no one will ever lend us money again. We won't be able to borrow. So I think, Peter, eventually, I think it may come to that. I mean, we'll see, but but that's where I agree with you. I think Rothbard, in that sense, was a prophet. Peter, thank you very much for that call. Again, just my opinion. You may agree, disagree. Rob.
No. And Peter down here in Florida, he's my friend, actually.
Oh, really? Very smart guy. You can see that. Economically very literate, very knowledgeable. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead, Rob.
So here's something that's going to be very enlightening, because a lot of people don't even know this, but many of our toll roads all the way across the country, and there was a program on about 30 years or more ago, like on 60 Minutes, when they used to do like real whistleblower stuff. And actually, I just Googled it, and AI came up with actually the Canadians own like the highways and the tolls going in and out of Canada to Chicago, Indiana, and the other surrounding states. And what they do is they break it up. They call it like a 99-year lease, and they break it up into other subcategories.
You're kidding.
No, actually, have your producer Google it.
No. I believe you, Rob. No, it's a figure of speech. I mean, I believe you. So the Canadians essentially own some of our key highways out of the Midwest.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to open up a bigger picture here. This is for all the listeners, viewers, everything. Now, listen to this. Okay. So all these toll roads. I mean, like even the Mass Pike. I mean, everybody knows that. I'm not even from Mass. You know, I came here 30 years ago. But hell, when they built all these things, it was only supposed to be temporary.
Rob, can you please hang on? I'm up against a hard break. This is a very important call. And Rob is getting to the heart of the issue. So, Rob, please hang on. I'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Break WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. Okay, listen to the new iHeartRadio app with preset buttons. You can set the app to play the Kuhner Report automatically. Before I go back to Rob in Newburyport, he was making a brilliant point. My sister texted in, and she disagrees with me. So, literally within the Kuhner family, there is division and dissension. So, here is what she wrote from Tucson, Arizona. Jeff, most of these foreign millionaires and billionaires could have already been citizens if they wanted to. The ones that are socialists/globalists can do the damage from where they are, wherever they are. The benefit from the gold card is the investment that these foreigners will make right here in America, which stimulates our economy. And moreover, they have to report to the IRS and to our government. Now we have more information on them. This is a genius idea on Trump's part. So my sister loves it. So even in the Kuhner familia, even in the Kuhner family household, there's division. Ashton, by the way, also texted me saying, Dad, I love the idea of a gold card. Trump knows what he's doing. Leave him alone. So even my own son is disagreeing with me on this. Rob in Newburyport, please pick up where you left off, Rob. Rob? Rob, do we have you? Rob?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Jeff. Great points there, and even your sister. So 55% think it's a carrot, 45% think it's a turd, but really it's just a pig with lipstick right now. And as a blank, Trump is very brilliant, and what I'm believing here is that he can do this, but also, me being in real estate, looking at the big pictures and everything that's going on here, what you need contingency clauses. You need solvency clauses. And then, too, if you bring these people in and make them citizens, like Luke was saying, then they bring the string of family along with them, and then they get their stuff for free. But what you do is you can bring these people in and allow them to only be minority, put them on a grace period, make them minority ownerships and not full ownerships. Because my story going back to these like the Panama Canal and all these other things that we're selling off, and we're in the debt for China. They're not giving us money. They're taking hard assets from us. They already own this country. Okay, so bottom line is that, and then too, you don't let them become, what they call arm's length distance of the transaction. Okay, these are all like real estate legal terms. But if Trump and team can figure that out, where these people don't take 100% control of our country, then and we can monitor them on a grace period, probation period, that would be great. And again, it's a brilliant idea, but just as a blanket statement, just selling off these things with no contingency plan or no way out of it for America to regain control. Look at Panama Canal. Thank you.
Well, Rob, I think you really put your finger on it. And look, this is what the Trump administration is, what Trump and Elon and the Commerce Secretary, again, this is really his brainchild, Howard Lutnick. This is what they're saying. We're not just going to let anybody buy a gold card. They're going to be vetted. They're going to be background checks. Some people are not going to be allowed to come in. We don't want people in organized crime, people in the mob, people who are drug traffickers or members of drug cartels or people that we believe are maybe spies or trying to conduct espionage. So, national security concerns. So they go, look, we will be vetting this closely. But in the end, they're going to get, if they pay the money and they pass the background checks and they give us the $5 million, they're going to get citizenship. And so will their families. And not only will they get citizenship, they also have to invest, create a certain amount of jobs, and pay taxes. And if they do all of those things, they're in. And they believe that like a lottery or like a product that they can literally monetize. I mean, to put it crudely, they're selling citizenship. I mean, I know the goal is to pay down the debt. I understand that and save and rescue the country economically. But really what they're saying is we're selling citizenship. What's the price? $5 million. And they think there are at least 1, if not 2, 3, 4 million people out there who have the $5 million, who can also invest, who can pay taxes, create some jobs, and help us go a long way towards paying off the debt. To me, again, as I said, what's the price tag you put on citizenship? And what you're really doing, and I know they don't want to, they're not saying it like that, but to me, that's how it appears to me, is you're putting a massive for sale sign on America. And I'm telling you, a lot of the people that are going to come in here and buy that gold card are not going to be investors that are going to be in our interests in the long term. So China already owns much of the United States. They're going to own more of the United States after this is done. Am I wrong? 32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me tell you what many of you are commenting on, besides obviously the issue at hand, Trump's proposal, which he wants to officially launch in 2 weeks. So it's very ambitious. He wants to get the timeline moved up as quickly as possible. He wants to start selling these gold cards as quickly as he can. So he wants it done in about 15 days. My question to you, do you support his program to establish a gold card whereby foreigners, wealthy foreign individuals, can buy U.S. citizenship, essentially, for $5 million? Now, again, I know I've been saying it all morning, but it bears repeating. They have to create jobs. They have to establish businesses or invest in the United States. They have to pay taxes. So they do have to contribute economically, financially to the United States. It's not just $5 million and that's it. But essentially, the heart of the proposal, $5 million, and they are on a fast track to citizenship for them and their families. Trump says all of the money raised, and they're anticipating potentially trillions of dollars, that's trillions with a T, will go to aggressively pay down the debt. Good idea, bad idea. What many of you are commenting on is Kuhner country is essentially divided. What is it, 55-45? I don't know what the latest poll says. It's about 50-50. Okay, whatever, 53-47, 52-48, whatever it is. How civil the debate has been, how intelligent the debate has been, how good-natured the debate has been, how open-minded the debate has been. And, the liberals keep saying, we're a cult, we never disagree with Trump, we're like robots, whatever he says we agree with. No. This discussion is clearly proving that, and other discussions as well that we've had on this show. So, but it's, it's what a good discussion debate should be. Notice, it's not how the liberals and the Dems debate. It's not, you're a fascist, you're a Hitler, go F yourself, we want to shoot you, we want to kill you, we want to cancel you, we want to censor you. Notice, when MAGA and conservatives and patriots have a disagreement, look how civilized and intelligent it is. Now, on that note, to be fully fair to Trump and his proposal, listen now. This is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. This is really his baby, this idea. He's beside Trump in the Oval Office. And he's saying, look, the gold card is really going to replace the HB visa program. He says, we've had this since 1990, where rich people, if they promise to invest and create 10 jobs and pay about $1 million, it's a sliding scale. It's about $1 million. They get green cards. They get permanent residency. And then after 5 years on a green card, they're eligible for citizenship. So he says, what I'm really doing is I'm modernizing, improving, updating the HB visa program, which has got huge backlogs. There's been problem with fraud. It's got quotas. It's not working for our country. This will unleash a ton of money and investment and capital into the United States. Roll cut 28, Mike.
5 program was really you lend some money, but it was full of nonsense, make believe, and fraud, and it was a way to get a green card that was low priced. So the president said, rather than having this sort of ridiculous EB-5 program, we're going to end the EB-5 program. We're going to replace it with the Trump Gold Card, which is really a green card gold, so they'll be able to pay $5 million to the U.S. government. They'll have to go through vetting, of course. We're going to make sure they're wonderful, world-class global citizens. They can come to America. The president can give them a green card, and they can invest in America, and we can use that money to reduce our deficit. Why do we give out lotteries of green cards? Why do we give out EB-5 for green cards? The President of the United States understands that the right answer is, why don't we eliminate the deficit of the United States of America instead?
So that's the real impetus. That's the rationale. If you want to know why are they pushing this so hard and so aggressively, they think they have a creative idea outside the box to start really paying down that debt, and this is the ticket to do it. 617-266-6868. This is from Marianne on Messenger. Jeff, I'm with you on this. This is all wrong. What the hell is Trump thinking? This is the stuff we're trying to get away from. China owning our farmland. People like Klaus Schwab telling us how to live and what we can and can't have. And as far as spying, you are 1,000% correct. They're already doing it. Think of those spy balloons. They've been doing it. They will continue to do it. But if they get citizenship here, you are 100% correct. Their allegiance is not to us. And this is going to be so much worse. This is absolutely a crazy, frightening proposal. It is just my opinion, but it is very frightening. I bet you the communist Chinese are probably already lining up, drooling. That's an excellent point, Marianne. This is from Charles on Messenger about if we repudiate the debt, then year after year, we're going to have to balance the budget because nobody's going to lend this money anymore. Jeff, you will never see a balanced budget year after year unless you have a constitutional amendment forcing the politicians to do it. You're dead on. You're dead on, Charles. Absolutely dead on. Dead on. We need a balanced budget amendment. Because unless you're holding a proverbial gun to their head, these politicians can never balance the budget. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Do you like this idea? Not like this idea? Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Jeff, the $36 trillion that we owe, it's a credit card, okay? So the credit card's maxed out. So Trump comes up with all these ideas. We bring all these people in. They pay $5 million. We cut all the waste in the government. We lay people off. We pay that debt down to nothing. What's going to stop the Democrats from running for president in 3 years, 11 months, promising everybody everything, jobs in government, all this money, if they get in and then they put the debt right back where it was again? All this is a waste of time what Trump's doing. We can't predict the future. I go buy a house and it's a 30-year mortgage. How can I predict that 30 years that I'm going to be able to pay this mortgage? How are they going to be able to keep the budget down and stop the Democrats from ballooning it again?
Well, you know what? And just to bounce off of what you're saying, Anthony, I want to read this. This is Eric on Messenger. And he made a point I didn't even think of, but you're touching on it. Jeff, what happens when a Democrat, say like, Jimmy Carter, in the future, drops the price of the gold card down to $1? Instead of one world order, it will be a new world order formerly known as America. My gut says hell no. Because in their minds, Jeff, and he's talking about these wealthy foreign investors, they're not buying citizenship. They're buying America. So, Anthony, you know, your point about the Democrats coming to power in the future and racking up the debt again. Well, not only can they rack up the debt again, but they can say, we're not going to charge you $5 million. We'll charge you $1 million, 500,000, 100,000, 10,000, 1,000, $1. And this way, we'll sell citizenship and we can flood the country, technically with illegals. They'll be legal because they just, they paid the $1 or the $5 or the $10 for the gold card. But it's a very dangerous precedent. If you're buying citizenship, you're assuming the price is going to be high. But with the Democrats, they can drop that price to rock bottom. Am I wrong, Anthony?
No, you're not wrong, Jeff. But I'm 60 years old, and I'm not saying the Republicans wouldn't build it up again either if they had the wrong Republican in there. But if you look at our presidential history, our government's like a ping pong game. The Republicans get in, the ball goes to one side, and then they spend all 4 years doing all this stuff. Then the Democrat gets it goes the other side. It's like we're like spinning our wheels. We're not going anywhere because both sides got their heads so far up there. You know what? And this idea with Trump with $5 million for a person, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm not too sure on it. But if the Democrat gets in, all that money he just raised for bringing in 1 million strangers is going to get spent out again, and there'll be more people.
Oh, I agree with you. Look, for this to work, we got to have a generation of MAGA rule. In other words, J.D. Vance winning in 2028, winning in 2032, at least 12 years of MAGA rule. And then we're on to something. 8:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just to show you it's done in other countries. About 100 countries around the world do it. It's called, the term is CBI, Citizenship by Investment. So that's essentially what Trump's gold card is. It's a form of CBI. Now, this person, 617, who texted me, I know this person, a patriot, served in the American military, the Air Force. He's of Greek heritage, an American, a really great American patriot, but of Greek descent. So this is what he sent me. Jeff, foreigners can apply for Greek citizenship by investment, CBI, or through naturalization after living in Greece for 7 years. Now, if you want to go by citizenship by investment, CBI, here is how it works in Greece. Applicants must invest at least 250,000 euros. So about $280,000, $275,000. Okay, ballpark. In real estate or in a business. Applicants must have permanent residency in Greece. Applicants must live in Greece for at least 183 days per year. In other words, just over 6 months. So a little bit over half of the year, you've got to be living in Greece. And finally, applicants must have a clean criminal record and medical insurance. So there are other conditions, but the price is essentially, euros and dollars, the conversion keeps changing, but roughly $280,000. That's what it takes to buy citizenship in Greece. So interesting. That's interesting. This is from 508. Jeff, purchasing citizenship should not allow for any special privileges above natural born citizens. And the $5 million should be non-refundable in the event that the so-called new citizen either violates the law or has their citizenship revoked. Oh, guaranteed. No, Trump is adamant on that point. Once you cough up the $5 million, you're never getting it back. You break the law, you break the terms of the agreement, you don't set up a business, you're not creating jobs. In other words, you're not hitting all the benchmarks, you're out. You lose your citizenship, and we keep the $5 million. So, no, the good thing about this is once the $5 million is paid, it goes right into that fund to pay down the debt, and you never get it back. Okay, one more, 617. Jeff, and this is a very interesting question. Jeff, is this fee for citizenship, this gold card, really a perverted or legal version of what the coyotes do? In other words, for the right price, we'll let you come into the United States, or we'll bring you into the United States. Yes, I think, except it's done legally. That's, of course, a huge difference. But basically, here's some money and get me into America. Except in this case, it has the full blessing of the U.S. government, under the Trump administration. So it's legal. It's not illegal. But it's basically money, and here's, and you're welcome to America. 617-266-6868 is the number. Steve in Braintree. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Good morning, my friend. How are we doing?
Steve, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you, my buddy?
I know. I've been so excited about the election, so I haven't had a chance to call. Actually, been very busy. You've got a lot of callers now. I just, my usual take here is to dispel a few bring us back to reality here. First of all, the nations you're worried about, Saudi Arabia, China. The only people with money in Saudi Arabia are the Saudi royal family. Everyone else is just a citizen. No one who can afford $5 million is going to give up the life of a Saudi prince to live in America. They'll visit, they'll buy Bugattis, they'll fly here, but they go home to do their falconry where they're treated like royalty. So Saudi citizens are not coming here. No one else in the Middle East except the royal families of those houses have the money to come here. Everyone else who wanted to and had money, a Yemeni oligarch or whatever, is not going to pass the background check. So no one from the Middle East who's a terrorist or a terrorist sympathizer or a crook is coming here. Second, the Chinese government is not going to pay $5 million to put a spy on our radar when they sneak them in for free through the student program. You don't put your spies in the crosshairs of the United States government by paying money, doing the background check, and figuring out who they are. That's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. These are wealthy people coming from, and the real problem with China is this. That we all talk about China like it's going to stay communist and dominate the world. They have a worse retirement program, elderly time bomb, than we do. They have no way to support their elderly population with their current economic growth. They are a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And second, they're a quasi-capitalist system. They let their middle class have a little bit, but no power in the government. That system is not going to last forever. Whatever happens, whatever its collapse happens, that system is not long-term, unlike ours. So these things you're worried about in terms of citizenship program are not going to happen. Instead, we're going to get wealthy people from Europe who don't want to live in the European system. And no matter how many of these people you bring in, they're not going to have outsized political power. They're not, because they're coming from different areas, they're not all going to be from one nation where they all get together. You know how recent immigrants are. They're going to go to different parts of the country. This is not what they're coming here to do. I think I think Trump is right about this. They want citizenship. They want to be in a country where they can earn money, maybe have some influence in how their local governments and federal governments are run, because they don't have anywhere they're from, and they're wealthy. Why wouldn't we? He even talked about Apple buying these and then using it to bring in talent. I mean, he had a whole program set up. And Lutnick is a brilliant economic figure, so I don't understand where this fear of this system comes in. We have a commodity. The United States citizenship is a commodity. And we need to start, instead of bringing in, the people we've been bringing in who are just leeches and going to live off the system, let's bring some people to build up the system. That's the best argument I can make.
Well, and Steve, look, you make an excellent argument, as always. You always make a very good argument. But Steve, is citizenship a commodity? I think that's the fundamental premise. To me, it's not. I don't think our country is a business. I think our country is a family. I think our country is a nation. I don't think you can put a price tag on citizenship. And I don't like the idea of selling, in principle, I don't like the idea of selling citizenship. I came to do well in America, obviously, but I didn't come for the money. I came to assimilate. I came because I love this country. I love its history. I love its heritage. I love its Constitution. I love its Bill of Rights. I love its founding. I love everything that it stands for. And to me, once you start cheapening citizenship, because Steve, just think about it. If we're going to establish a system where it's 5 million, well, what prevents a Democrat from coming in and saying, nah, it's 1 million, or it's 500,000, or it's 100,000, or it's 50,000, or it's $1? I know $1 is absurd. It's not, but you know what I'm saying? In other words, once you start putting a price on citizenship, you're saying your country's for sale. And the Democrats will sell it for cheap. Trump is at least going to hold the price high. But, you're assuming Trump's always going to be in power. What do you say to that argument?
Everything has a price in this world. Everything is a commodity. I get all the rah-rah patriotism stuff, but first of all, no one's going to want to live here if they don't like the American system. No one chooses to live. If you're wealthy in your own home country and being wealthy here is better for you, why is it better for you? Because of the system that exists. So to say that they're not going to be patriotic or not going to like living in America is an assumption I'm not going to make. No one pays that kind of money to come here and live and hates the system they're going to live under. That's Democrat nonsense. Democrats hate the system, even though they take advantage of it. I don't see that as a problem. Secondarily, you have people who want to come here. Instead, we can bring in the poor, the tired, what we've been bringing in or allowing in, or we can bring in things that make our country better. I see it totally differently, and they're going to pay a price. So why, if I have the means, should I not be able to take advantage of those means, give that money to the government to use to bid? If we pay down the debt, there's more services for other people. It makes sense to me.
Steve, as always, and please, buddy, don't be a stranger. You got to call more often, Steve. As always, thank you very much for that call. Look, to me, this is the analogy I would use. And I get Steve's argument, and I think it's going to prevail. I think in the end, the economics of this are potentially so lucrative and the dire need to confront this time bomb of a debt is so urgent that I think in the end they're going to have no choice, but they're going to go with it. But this is my analogy. Marrying for love or marrying for money? And I understand his argument. Well, they love the system. That's why they're coming here. But do they really have an allegiance to America? In other words, they just come in, paid $5 million, and now they're a citizen. I came for love. And, look, I'll be brutally honest with you. I can't tell you how many times growing up I had families, people say, oh, marry that person for money. Oh, that person's really well off. Oh, you want your daughter to be really financially comfortable. Oh, you want your son to really have a good life. Marry her. She's loaded. Her parents are loaded. And my attitude always was, you marry for love. Because in the end, when you marry for money, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's a life of misery. It's a life of emptiness. It's to me it's not a life worth living. And so I don't look, that's where I disagree with Steve. And again, he makes a very strong argument. But I don't look at citizenship as a, quote, commodity or a product. Because what you're really saying is the country's a commodity and a product. And that's not America. I don't see it that way. I refuse to see it that way. But that's me. 617-266-6868. Kay in Florida. Thanks for holding, Kay, and welcome.
Well, thanks for allowing me to be on the show.
Yes,
I appreciate it. I love your show.
Thank you, Kay.
Well, it's very clear and it's very plain and simple how this deficit can be wiped out completely. I still hear people calling President Trump, oh, he's a convicted felon president. They still wish that they had a Democrat in. Okay, fine. And you know who that was going to be, the laughing hyena. Well, all those people should put their money where their mouth is. If they have a tax return coming back for them this year, and if they don't, then garnish their wages so that they can pay for what they believed in, which is to make this country in the state that it is right now. They are aiding and abetting by allowing all this to come in during the 4 years their lovable Mr. Biden was in office. And what do we have? We have drug addicts. We have fentanyl killings, rapists. We have gang members doing this, that, and trafficking children. And they are part of the problem. They aided and abetted in it. Let them pay for it. Shut off the food supply, the clothing, the housing for all these illegal immigrants. And we are an immigrant country. However, a legal immigrant country. Let them pay for it. Do it. Go down the voter registration list of all Democrats and have them each put in $1,000. They'll have it all down and pay for it, no problem.
So, Kay, I'm just curious if Trump, if you're his consigliere or if you were at his cabinet meeting yesterday, because they discussed the gold card again yesterday, not just a couple days ago in the Oval Office. And he said, Kay, you like this idea? You don't like this idea. What would you tell him?
Oh, I like the idea.
And do you think it's real? I'm just curious. Do you think it's realistic that he can get 1 million people to pay for that gold card? He gets $1 million, that's $5 trillion.
If he can get people who do the same jobs over and over again or aren't even working, if he can fire them, he's capable of doing this to get the Democrats to pay for what they've done to the country. Interesting.
Kay, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Okay, this is from Mark in Medford. He messaged me. Sorry, Chuck just messaged me. Okay, Jeff, if you want to marry a bum. Chuck's a very funny guy. If you want to marry a bum, you go ahead. But for me, forget it. Okay. All right. This is from Mark in Medford. Jeff, this is why I love your show. We can agree to disagree and not have any ill will towards each other. unlike some people we know. But Jeff, I have to disagree with you on that coyote version or the allegory that you made. It's not the same. People that come to this country via a coyote are here to mooch off of us. This Trump plan is not like that whatsoever. So that's why I disagree with you, Jeff, and I still love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. Well, thank you, Mark. No, that is true. I mean, no, these people are not moochers. Trump is right on that. These are investors. These are business people. These are wealthy people. The opposite of a drain on the system. I mean, $5 million up front, and they got to deliver on jobs, on investments, on setting up businesses, paying taxes. They hire people. They also pay taxes. So no, there's no question. That's the allure of this. That's why we're all like, ooh, wow. I mean, we're talking maybe trillions of dollars off the national debt. So these aren't illegals. That's for sure. So, and it's going to be a bit of a brain drain for the rest of the world. Because I think a lot of what Trump wants to do is not just attract these wealthy businessmen and investors, but also, as he said about, let's say, Apple's Tim Cook, he says, I want to hire people, but they're from India or they're from Brazil or they're from whatever, Taiwan, or I don't care, pick your country. They go to our best schools, they graduate top or near the top of the class, but it's hard for them to get a job here or to sponsor them. Well, I'll pay $5 million. Gold card, they stay. And they work for my company. So it's also going to attract a lot of the best and brightest from around the world. If they're willing, if the investors are willing to pony up the $5 million. 617-266-6868. Paul in Natick. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing this morning?
Good. How are you, Paul?
Great show. Jeff, if you had 3 more hours, I think we could come to all the same conclusion, but unfortunately, I think Trump he's just a strategist. I mean, he's all the stuff that everybody's saying on both sides. Very good point. Makes a lot of sense. You don't want to, just handing out, because you're a rich billionaire, you can buy a citizenship. Well, what does that mean? I can vote? I can serve on a jury? Well, what does that mean? I mean, it's good, but you think the larger picture is he's trying to shine a light on the whole subject. And he's kind of trolling us a little bit, Jeff. It's like buying Gaza, buying Greenland. In other words, if it happened, it wouldn't be that bad. But is that really the objective? The objective is to let people know that you come here to the United States, you should be an upstanding citizen. You should not come here illegally. You should, pay your taxes. Yeah, but what about the poor people down in South America? Well, let's give them a bronze card, Jeff, or a silver card, based on your economic ability. And then, instead of paying the coyotes and the drug cartels, just write us a check for $10,000, and you can come here. Hell, we'll send a plane down and pick you up, but you're going to be under scrutiny. That's the whole point, I think. It's not really changing. Everything else is already still there. There are still people wielding influence on this country from abroad, Soros and Klaus Schwab and billionaires. And, they don't need a citizenship. Chinese, the communists. I think that the bigger picture here is Trump is just saying, look, here's the situation. Immigration in this country is good, but it has to have laws. It has to have, there has to be some sort of stipulations to it, other than open borders.
Oh, you're dead on. No, Paul, you're dead on. There's no question. No, look, he's drawing a spotlight, or he's shining a spotlight on several things, and it's shaken the entire debate. And I think on that, he's done a masterful job. Look, number one, he's trying to tell us we have a debt crisis. Both Frankly and Elon, to be fair, both of them, and Lutnick, okay, all three of them, to be fair. And they're right. He's saying, do you understand the scale of the debt crisis? We got to start issuing gold cards at $5 million a pop. And if we don't get millions and millions and millions of people to buy into it, we can't pay down the debt. Do you understand how bad things are? Like Trump is trying to tell the country this. We've got a $2 trillion deficit every year. $2 trillion. We're paying almost $1 trillion a year just to finance the interest on the debt. As Elon said yesterday, he got up, it was very dramatic. He said, we're going bankrupt. Do you understand? Like, as a country, we're going broke. You hear me? Like, hello, wake up. It's not a question of whether you like Doge, don't like Doge. If we don't do Doge, we're done. And Trump is saying we may have to go more than Doge. We may have to go gold card. And what he's also saying, why don't we start attracting wealthy investors, people who are highly skilled, people who are highly educated, people who can contribute immediately, who aren't a drain on the system, but the opposite. They're contributing to the system. So what he's saying is we've had the immigration system, whether it's legal or illegal, completely backward for decades. So I think on those, he's clicking on all cylinders. But I think he doesn't understand look, my fear, let me put it this way. My fear is there are unintended consequences. One of them you just touched on. If there's a gold card, well, then what does that mean? There could be a silver card, right? There could be a bronze card. And when the Democrats come back to power, what if they start selling citizenship, not for a 5 million, but for 10,000 or 5,000 or 1,000? It's the law of unintended consequences I'm worried about. Heyo, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, but I just want to give all of you a heads up. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, last night on Fox News says that she's going to release, if not all, at least some of the Epstein flight logs and the Epstein files, the client list. She says she's planning to release it at high noon today. We'll see what's in the list. We'll see if anything's been redacted. But if she does what she promises to do, it is going to be one hell of an explosive story. So 2.5, almost 2 hours, 40 minutes. And I think you could see one of the biggest scandals in a long, long time. Anyway, fingers crossed. Hopefully she does the right thing. Release all of it. All of it. The public needs to know. All right, the gold card. Trump is now proposing a new program. $5 million buys you essentially citizenship if you're a wealthy foreigner. If you invest in America, create certain jobs, obviously pay taxes, pass a background check. Good idea, bad idea. Gail in Nahant. Thanks for holding, Gail, and welcome.
Hello.
Gail, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi. My concern is, and I know Trump has a great team, but I don't know if there's any way he can vet. He's got to vet these people that are coming in. And one of my big concerns is what's going on. I'm from Louisiana, and I remember they attacked us and they ran down a bunch of people, killing them and on Bourbon Street and this. We have to make sure they follow and honor our law. And I'm referring to the Muslims that they took them in France and they build their own little city and their police can't even go in. They follow their own civil law. They don't follow the French law in our country. If they come in and they promote their rule in the mosques, they build mosques and push their agenda. And their agenda is we're the infidels. And what they believe is if they die while killing us, they go straight to heaven. They get so many virgins. They believe this stuff. And I mean, and there's some I'm sure are borderline that aren't that critical, but they want to come in here and destroy us and take over the world. And
well, no,
they
look,
did
Gail, you raise a very, very important point, and I'm sure Trump's people are aware of it. If not, they're definitely aware of it now because we're talking about it. Look, take Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden came from one of the wealthiest families in Saudi Arabia. People forget that now because they see him, the man in the cave and, the guy who was in Pakistan and then, the Mujahideen. And he dressed like a beggar. But the fact of the matter is he was a very wealthy man. He came from one of the wealthiest families in the Middle East. So what I'm saying is, in theory, someone like a future Osama bin Laden who can buy citizenship in the United States for $5 million. And if they can pass this criminal background check, they're in. Now, Steve makes a good point in Braintree. Look, are they going to spend $5 million to infiltrate our country? They'd probably just walk across the border. But what I'm saying is, just because people are rich and wealthy doesn't mean they have the best interests of the United States. Now, I get it from Trump's point of view. Of course, we've got the debt. We've got to pay down the debt. It's a priority. I understand. You want to bring in as much capital, create jobs, have the economy boom, have people go back to work, as much investment as possible. I understand that. But look, again, I go back to this principle. To me, I'm not for sale. I've never been for sale. I don't like the idea of America being for sale. And I don't know what the difference is. And so far, that question hasn't been answered. Selling citizenship or selling the country? What's the difference? To me, Americans are not for sale. America is not for sale. Or at least it shouldn't be for sale. So I understand all of the arguments. They're excellent arguments. I'm not denying that. But in the end, look, there's a saying my father had, and I think about him now because he passed away. But he would often say to me, he was a working man, he was a union man, he was a patriot, he was an anti-communist, he loved America. But he often said to me, Jeff, money isn't everything. And what he meant by that is there are some things, yes, money's important. He would always say that. Get a good job, have a good career, provide for your family. But family is more important. Church is more important. God is more important. Fundamental moral values are more important. Patriotism is more important. That's the thing I always loved about our founding fathers. Yes, they were wealthy men. They're all wealthy men. But above all, they were Christian patriots. If they truly valued the almighty buck, they would not have taken on the British Empire. In other words, money wasn't everything. And the birthright of American citizenship, they valued so much. They so jealously guarded it and protected it and nurtured it. Honestly, I don't think they would be selling citizenship. I'm not accusing Trump of being a traitor. Far from it. I'm just saying. I'm looking at it from the point of view of the founding fathers. You think George Washington would be kosher with this? I don't think so. WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Hal in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Hal, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, you may remember Belize offered citizenship to the folks that were in Hong Kong before the communists took over in 2000, and they were only offering him to limited people, physicians and engineers, people that they needed in that country. So I don't think that's such a terrible idea. But I don't believe, even if this does happen, I don't think it's going to pay off the national debt. It may put a small dent in it. You mentioned a little while ago about a balanced budget. What we need is a constitutional budget. If we have an amendment to balance the budget, there are two escape clauses in all these proposed balanced budget amendments: war and national emergency. National emergency is not in the Constitution. So, and we've been in one, I think, since World War I, there's been some type of national emergency declared. So you pass this balanced budget amendment, and the congressman said, yeah, I'm fighting for fiscal sanity, but my goodness, we're in a national emergency, so I can't do anything about it. So it gives no incentive to get out of an emergency, and it makes a national emergency constitutional, which is not. It's not in the Constitution. So I think those are the things we got to think. Lots of things sound good at first view, and you have to look into the details before you sign on to it.
Well, Hal, I'm just curious. I take it you're opposed then to a balanced budget amendment?
A constitutional budget. I mean, just look at all the money that the federal government gives to states. That's not constitutional. And most people on both sides, that's how they get elected. Hey, I'm bringing home the bacon. That's not constitutional. Foreign aid is not constitutional, but both parties send millions and billions. We've been doing it since before World War II. And so we wonder why we're in the mess we're in. Until we have a constitutional budget, then we'll have surpluses. And not only that, but you have the Federal Reserve Bank that simply prints money out of thin air, or just creates it on a computer. So as long as these things are in effect, we're not going to have a balanced budget.
Oh, I agree.
And I don't know
Hal,
if there's
I completely agree. And Hal, look, I think the 36.5 trillion, I think that's the number now I keep reading. So whatever it is, 36, 37 trillion is the culmination of a lot of mistakes. And as you put it, a lot of disastrous mistakes, from foreign aid to running an unconstitutional government to, the Federal Reserve. We could go on and on and on. And now that's why we're in the deep hole that we're in. Hal, I had a debate with a general once, literally an actual general at Hanscom, a retired general, I believe, on Hanscom Air Force Base. And he was this big lib, huge Obama supporter. Anyway, long story short, at one point he says, well, you and I are not that far apart on the issues, because we were debating everything. We were debating the border. We were debating illegal immigration. We were debating everything. And he said, I'm for a balanced budget amendment. And I said, I'm against it. And he was like, what? But I thought you were for fiscal responsibility. And I said, I am. But I don't understand why I have to force politicians to balance a budget. That's their constitutional moral obligation. That's like asking, forcing me to eat. Like you have to, we have to pass a constitutional amendment to use a fork and a knife to eat? I said, I'm sorry. Or he was an Air Force general. I said, so what? We got to pass a constitutional amendment to say follow orders when we ask you to drop a bomb, drop a bomb? Like, if you're not willing to drop a bomb, you don't belong in the military. That's it, full stop. If you're not willing to balance the budget, you don't deserve to be in Congress. So, this is the other thing. To me, debt and deficits, I don't want to seem all sanctimonious. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. Debt and deficits are immoral. They're not just unconstitutional, which is to me a crime, obviously, but they're immoral. Why are they immoral? Because you're living beyond your means. And so what you're doing is you are mortgaging, whether you consciously realize it or not, you are mortgaging the futures of your children and grandchildren to pay for the spending of today. I can't think of any, my wife and I go on this world cruise for a year, and I leave the tab to my Ashton and my Ava. I'm just giving an example. I can't think of anything more selfish, honestly, more immoral than that. My wife and I want to have a yacht. Put it on the credit card. Ashton and Ava will pay for it. Don't worry about it when they're older. I'm sorry, it's disgusting. Well, that's what we've done as a country. So, to me, I look at it as do your constitutionally elected job. Balance the freaking budget. I have to balance the books at our house, or it's my wife, but we run, we balance the books at our house. I'm sure you do at yours, Hal. Most of the listeners. So let me get this straight. If we have to balance our books, why shouldn't our elected representatives balance our books? That's what we elect them for. And we pay a lot in taxes. They're getting more revenue now than they've ever received. And they're running 2 $2 trillion deficits every year? It's disgusting. It's criminal. I'm telling you, it's criminal. Hal, final word to you.
Today, Senator John Kennedy had a chart, and I think every 3 months we add $1 trillion to the debt just due to interest on the debt. I don't think we spent $1 trillion the first 100 years of our existence, maybe the first 200 years. So,
no, it's a big hole. It's a deep, big hole. Hal, thank you very much for that call. And let's be clear. It was the corrupt political class, the politicians, backed by the media, backed by the deep state, backed by that god-awful Federal Reserve that has put us now in this hole. So, I mean, they bear full responsibility for this. Full responsibility. Diane in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
I have a bad feeling about this. I think it's fraught with unforeseen problems. It reminds me a little bit of the Patriot Act. It sounded good at first. We all thought, hey, that should be good. Get after those terrorists. And what did it do? It turned around and backfired and went after citizens. So I just said I think I'd like to see Trump go back to what he's been doing, finding all the waste, and keep on that track. Maybe it's slower than this would be, but and I know we're in trouble debt-wise, but I think it's a better route.
Interesting. Yeah, Diane, that's one of the things as I get older. I mean, I'm 55 now, but I do remember the Patriot Act, and I supported it. I mean, to my eternal shame. I initially supported it, just like I initially supported the war in Iraq, to my eternal shame. And I did not realize unintended consequences, the law of unintended consequences. So maybe the motive was good, and I'm sure in Trump's case it is. I know it is. And the conceptualization is excellent. The design is excellent. The intention is excellent. But sometimes you don't realize it, and you're just thinking short term. You don't realize some of the long-term consequences. And that's what I'm concerned about. Diane, dynamite call. Mark in Milton. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, thanks. Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have kind of three points on this.
Yes.
And none of them are positive. This brings me back to when Trump was elected in 2016. And remember his first continuing resolution? It was awful. Now, we all know the reason why. And that will never happen again because the man has learned and he's come into this with a gusto. So that's point number one. Point number two, this is taking our eyes off of Doge. I think there's enough waste and fraud to resolve the budget issue and the debt. That's number two. Number three, what did we learn here in Massachusetts when Kennedy died? The Democrats, thinking that they were going to be in power forever, changed how a senator is is appointed in the case of a death. Or this was just before he was on his last legs. And the Democrats here in Massachusetts changed how the appointment to senatorship, if a senator died, and we wound up with Scott Brown, who was the 51st or 52nd vote, supposedly against Obamacare. We're doing exactly that. Donald Trump is proposing, and I'm a huge Trump supporter. He's doing exactly the same thing here. He's thinking going to be in power forever. You can't tell me that in 8 years, when Nancy Pelosi's awful daughter has been elected to Congress, that one of these people who bought their way in isn't going to wave a $10 bill in front of her, and for her congressional district, she'll get that Chinese businessman a...
Well, that's my fear. I mean, I think, Mark, you've articulated it very well. You know, or, as I said, and many of you are chiming in as well on the text line, Jeff, if they can issue gold cards, silver cards, bronze cards, they go, don't underestimate Democrats. And then we're in a world of trouble. 9:50. 8:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. I just want to say this very quickly in case I don't have time to say it. This is our last segment, obviously, and then, we're off in, 7 minutes. So, because we are going to take a few more calls. Outstanding show today. Really, the calls were great. Both sides of the issue. Just an absolutely civilized, really intelligent, respectful debate, discussion. We set the bar, Kuhner country. Honestly, I got to tell you, we set the bar, and we set the bar very high. So again, I know I thank the callers often, but you're very special, and you make this show absolutely outstanding. So I want to thank all of you and everyone who's texted me, emailed me, messaged me, all of you. I truly appreciate it. Lisa in Dudley. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Good morning.
Lisa.
Good morning. I do not agree. I agree with you. I do not agree with the whole gold card thing. And one thing that I noticed that Trump said that I dispute is he's like, oh, when companies, want to hire somebody out of college, then, they'll be able to pay the $5 million and do that. My daily job has me with and around college kids all day long, 60% of them being international students. Right before graduation every year, they're on filling out jobs and going on interviews and trying to do everything they can. The biggest hurdle that they had is because none of these companies will sign for their visas for them to stay here to do the job. Okay, we get that. So why do I think that they're going to pay $5 million for that kid, and I can't even get him to sign a visa paper for it?
That's a really good point, Lisa. But I completely agree with you. Excellent point. But I mean, I've been reading stories about how these companies have been abusing the H-1B visa program, and they keep a lot of these, college graduates or professionals and pay them half or a third of what American workers would command on the job market. So I don't understand. It seems to me if they want to keep them, they're using H-1B visas. Am I wrong?
No, so they're paying them extremely well. When you do get one that's out of college, whether he be an American or an international kid, by luck, if he gets somebody to sign his visa papers, they're paying them extremely well. I literally know a kid I see frequently who graduated last year and is now making $73,000 a year with a tech startup.
Wow, interesting.
So no, they're paying them better than, I guess, because the apartment that he lives in is $3,000 a month. And so they're paying them a lot more than you think they are.
Interesting. Lisa, thank you very, very much for that call. So Lisa's saying, hey, they don't even want to shell out money for a visa. Why would they pony up $5 million? That's an interesting point. A very good point, Lisa. Frank in Auburndale. Thanks for holding, Frank. And welcome.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you for taking my call.
Yes.
This is Frank. I haven't called in years. I gave you a painting a long time ago. I'm sure you're hanging in your house.
Yes, Frank. How have you been?
Listen, Ingo Swan.
I'm sorry, I missed that last. I'm sorry, Frank.
Ingo Swan. Ronnie Reagan did something with the Russian money many years ago, and it's $30 trillion, and all the politicians have been trying to steal it ever since. His name was Ingo Swan, I believe.
Now, Frank, I'm just curious, where do you stand on this gold card? Do you like it or do you not like it?
No. No, it's not good for the country, Jeff, no.
Frank, thank you very much for that call. Let me try to squeeze one more in. John in Westminster. John, I hate to do this to you. You've got 1 minute. The floor is yours. Go.
I'm going to make it quick. Work hard and obey the law. That's always been the model for citizenship. The second thing is this commercializes citizenship, the process. It's like getting an airline ticket on a plane, and those who have more money can board the plane first. And by the time you board the plane, you may not have any room for your luggage, which, you're supposed to have a free bag, etc. So it just commercializes the whole process. It's a bad look all around, I think.
Interesting. John, but what do you say to the argument, we're $37 trillion in the hole, we've got to pay down this massive debt, it's crushing us, it's destroying our economy, destroying our future, the interest alone is almost $1 trillion a year, we got no choice at this point. What say you, John?
I don't believe that we have no choice at this point. Compromising in this way is not worth it. The amount of money that we'll get as a result of this won't even be a drop in the bucket compared to what the debt is. So it's not worth it. It's better to have people who are willing to work hard and obey the law. And many of those people are here now. They were invited in by the previous administration, whether we like it or not.
John, my bad. John, thank you very, very much for that call. So, wow, I'd love to see what the poll shows now. I think it's probably 50-50. It was 55-45 in favor of the gold card. I think it's probably 50-50 now. Anyway, all right, this issue's not going away. The Epstein list at noon. Bye-bye.